Now, more than 1.5 billion learners around the world are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Children's organization Save the Children says almost 10 million of them may never return to school. It adds there has never been this many children out of school in history. What can be done to address this? Well, to tell us more, we are now joined live via Zoom by Alexa Carreon. She is the program officer for basic education of Save the Children Philippines. Glad you could join us this morning, Alexa. Now, how can you paint us a picture of exactly how the pandemic affects education of children globally and here in the Philippines?
Yes, so globally, we are seeing that at least 9.7 million children will remain out of school and may not return to school by the end of this year. And this is an effect of the rising poverty due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is part of the report, our Save our Education Global Report. So while we do not have the exact figures of these for the Philippines yet, we can, based on reports from the Department of Education, they are projecting at least a 20% drop in enrollment for the basic education level this year. We can also look at the previous data on out-of-school children in the Philippines, which is in 2017, where there are about 1.2 million children aged 5 to 15 who were out of school. So we can only see that with the effects of the pandemic on children's education, we can see that these numbers will really increase for the incoming school year. So we can see that the pandemic will really show a drop in school enrollment, and this poses a great risk to children. Primarily, of course, this will disrupt their education and they will lose out on learning. But as schools and child development centers remain closed, children's access to other essential services are also affected, such as their access to protection services and health and nutrition services. And we're also seeing that the impact is even worse for the most deprived groups of children, such as those who were already out of school even prior to the pandemic, and children who live in remote areas and children with disabilities. So we can see really that the pandemic will have long-term and far-reaching effects on the lives of children.
You're right. It goes far beyond just education, right? Because you did mention protective services. But could you talk to us about your projects? You have Bahay Aralan and Project Aral initiatives
Mhm.
of Save the Children. What exactly are these and how can they help the kids?
Yeah, so Save the Children Philippines, we've developed what the Project ARAL, or Access to Resources for Alternative Learning. So, or as we also call it, Bahay Aralan. So these are distance learning materials adapting proven learning packages to save the children, such as the Early Literacy and Math at Home Plus and Literacy Boost. So we've developed this to respond to the growing educational needs of children and their families. So these are materials for designed for 3 to 12 years old. These are learning resources that support parents and show parents how they can support the holistic development of their children at home. So these are videos demonstrating how parents can support their children using simple and practical activities. We also have storytelling centered activities with children with their parents can listen to and do activities together that support, again, their literacy and social and emotional development. And we also want to highlight that these materials also emphasize child participation because for our older children, for the 10 to 12-year-old children, they are really involved in making their own materials that they can, covering topics that they can discuss with their peers and adults.
All right.
These, sorry.
How many children can your organization reach and help?
So far, for our project, it's primarily designed to help our around 7,000 families. So we call these the sponsored families. But because of our recent collaboration, we're working closely with the Department of Education and especially DepEd NCR, where they're also showing these materials to the entire NCR. So we're really expecting the numbers. We're really expecting to reach more children and more families with these resources.
They certainly need the help. Now, the children you're helping also include kids with disabilities and special needs. Can you tell us about how you help them?
Yeah, so as I've mentioned before, children with disabilities are really part of the group that are marginalized, and even now with COVID-19, their access to their learning opportunities are really they have lesser access to these learning opportunities. So to support children with disabilities and their families, we're preparing also parenting messages to be developed to support the learning of children with disabilities in the home setting. So these are practical tips for parents that they can do at home with their children. And at on the side of the Department of Education, to one of our programs, sustaining education reform gains, which is focused on improving teacher quality. Part of what they're doing is on special education teachers and other teachers handling children with disabilities.
Parents are really
So
going to
there's support in the home setting. Yes.
Parents are going to play a really, really big role in their children's education. They have to be more hands on than ever. What happens, or for working parents, how do they play out that role?
So parents will really play a crucial role in the learning and education of children, especially now for working. That's why the resources that we have right now are designed to so that parents can use it prior to the opening of classes, so they can practice and they can also make their schedules and make their routines, make the necessary adjustments, and capacitate themselves so they can also get the confidence that they need, so that they'll be able to facilitate the more formal learning once the schools open in August 24.
All right, fantastic work that you guys are doing. Thanks for spending time with us this morning. That was Alexa Carreon of Save the Children Philippines.